Finally, we have Mr. Fong, entrepreneur and founder of Oz Hub and Store Hub. He will be talking about innovation and entrepreneurship in Malaysia. Are we geared to support and create the groundbreakers? Mr. Fong?
Sorry, I'm not so experienced as these guys, so I need notes. And therefore, I've used the podium. You guys are okay with that? Hello, my name is Hong. How's everyone doing today? You guys are awesome, responsive, proud. It seems like all I've been hearing is a lot of positive spin today. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to give a bit more of a balanced, honest take if I can. But what I would like to start first is tell my story. Because I don't have a lot of wisdom to impart. I'm just a couple of years ahead of where you guys are, and in any case, I'm still Gen 1. So I'm actually Malaysian, believe it or not. I grew up 12 years in Malaysia, in Damansara Utama. I went to primary school there. But at the age of 12, my mom thought that I should go to Singapore because I got an ASEAN scholarship. I think that's where the brain drain started for me at a very early age. So the Singapore government paid for all my studies for 4 years, which was awesome. Except that the MOE, the Ministry of Education, wasn't very happy with me because I started hacking computers and stuff, and they almost kicked me out of Singapore. So after 4 grueling years, I didn't do very well. I was one of the worst scholars in my batch. But they offered me a junior college scholarship, believe it or not, because I represented Singapore in a robotics competition overseas. But my mom said not enough, like Singaporean education is not good for you, you better go elsewhere. So she sent me here to Melbourne. I went to Trinity College. Anyone went to Trinity College? Yeah, awesome. I love drama. All the noisy ones, all the drama. Anyways, and I went to Melbourne University. Actually, my first preference at Melbourne University was to do a law and computer science double degree. At that time, you could do double degrees. But again, I didn't do very well in Trinity College, so I didn't qualify. So I qualified for computer science, but my mom said, don't do that. My mom said, why not? But I said, no, I don't want to be a programmer for the rest of my life. So I decided to do an arts degree instead, which is kind of weird, right? But arts degree at 80% goals, so it's awesome. Anyways, I studied at Melbourne University. I did 3 years there. Sorry, 3.5, because I actually failed 3 subjects in 1 semester, and 2 in a couple of other semesters. I failed 3 subjects because I was playing Ragnarok online for about 18 hours a day. There was one lecturer who didn't fail me because I wrote it down my lecture said I was suffering from computer gaming addiction, and but only one lecturer responded with compassion and said, you can submit your assignment next semester. And I was like, damn, it sounds so good. I only went to one of his lectures. Anyway, so after I finished my studies, I was bumming around for 3 months. I didn't know what to do. My uncle at that time, he was doing some stuff, and he said, oh, don't bum around, us Asians, we don't take gap years and shit like that. So, you come help me with my business, and putting up a few things on eBay. So I did that, and eventually we founded a company called Oz Hub. We grew that over 5 years to about $5 million turnover a year. I won a couple of awards, Best Young Entrepreneur, Top 100 in Melbourne, couple of nice things, okay? And last year I sold out, and I moved to Shanghai to study Chinese. Because that was what I actually wanted to do after graduating, and still helping my uncle do stuff, stupid things. And I guess the reason why I'm telling you my story is this, is because I think to a certain degree, I've lived my parents' not dream, because they really never had much expectations of me. They let me do an art degree. Rather, is anyone doing an arts degree or doing an arts degree? Yeah, I feel more at home. Anyways, and the reason I'm telling you this story is because I actually feel I have every reason to stay in Australia. I'm an Australian PR. But for some reason, I've done okay in my career. I've done okay, with living here. I've got a house and a car. A lot of my family is here, so there's actually really almost no reason to go back to Malaysia. But after living in Shanghai for a year, I founded my new company called Store Hub, which we do iPad point of sale stuff. And I decided to go back to Malaysia. I think it's the only reason why these guys allow me to speak, because if I'm not going back to Malaysia, they were like, what's he talking about? So I actually was based in Shanghai, but I'm transitioning back to Malaysia. So why am I going back? what changed things for me. You know, a couple of years ago, about 5 years ago, Facebook happened, or 6, 7 years ago. And you know, as a young Malaysian, I think when I was growing up, my moms and my parents actually were, you know, and everyone, but basically were telling me, Malaysia has no hope. You know, we have a very corrupt government. We have a very difficult cultural problem where people are just kind of, you know, hoarding stuff to themselves. You know, it's dangerous to go out at night, to go to take a jog in the park, take a taxi or something, get raped. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? But this was the mentality, this was the story, this was the narrative I was told as a kid. But we never talked about it growing up. Why? Because we get ISA. And that's the reality. Well, that is the reality growing up. But in the last couple of years, suddenly we have this thing called social media, and we get to engage in this discourse openly with each other. And what happened as a result is that we suddenly start to realize, you know what, actually, wow, you know, all these common sentiments were put out in the open, and we started talking about, you know, what's wrong, what could be better, da 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 da. And one strange thing happened for me anyways. It was that hope that was once lost now started creeping back into my heart. Hope for a country that I guess we have written off as not worth staying in. You know, we have a highly concentrated group of people holding most of the power and wealth in Malaysia. That's the reality of things. But this social media thing, first of all, it's done three things. It's decentralized the power of, you know, big media conglomerates like the Star and TV3 and all that stuff that only tell what their bosses tell them to tell. But it's also secondly empowered people to connect with each other about their common frustrations about the country. And I think unless you talk about frustrations together in a common place, you cannot fix it. Thirdly, it brought about hope, just hope, that justice can be served where injustice has prevailed for a long time. And I think to me, you know, I'm Gen Y, and a lot of perceptions of non-Gen Y people of Gen Y is that we're called an entitled generation. We have a lot of options. But I think it's very untrue what these perceptions are of us. I think in reality, what we're actually on about is that, you know, Gen Y is a generation that believes that life is more than just about getting a good job, going to uni and having kids. You know, Gen Y is all about the anything is possible generation. And Gen Y is all about everything we must do. And Gen Y is all about the fact that everything we do must have meaning. And Gen Y is actually believing that we can change the world. And that's why we are who we are. So anyways, I talked a lot about my story and my beliefs. I should be talking about entrepreneurship, right? So let me give you a bit of a slight glimpse into what I see the difference is between a lot of what's happening in Silicon Valley, in Australia, as far as startups and entrepreneurship is concerned, and what potential I've seen in Malaysia. I actually started an office in Malaysia with my old company, and that's, I guess, spent a fair bit of time in Malaysia, 6 months in that year. So what I've seen, the difference is that, you know, in the West, this entrepreneurship startup thing is becoming such a fad. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, it's the new rock star. And as a result, you know, what we end up having is just an abundance of so-called entrepreneurs, right? And everyone just trying to solve problems that actually don't even exist. I mean, we're trying to build like Airbnb for bicycles. You know, like, what's the logic in that? You're building startups that actually don't actually solve really meaningful problems. Real entrepreneurs, I think, solve real problems. And I believe that in Malaysia, it is a melting pot full of problems waiting to be solved. And I think real entrepreneurs are attracted by these things. And for me, that was one of the biggest things about going back to Malaysia as well. It was about being able to see, okay, I built this nice online retail business. Yes, it did nice turnover. Yes, you know, that's all cool. And I guess, you know, people recognize that. But it's not quite the same as being able to go back to a place like Malaysia and go, you know, with this new business, I want to support other young entrepreneurs. I want to support other businesses to grow and to manage their businesses in a way that allows them to live sustainably and not just work long hours. And these are the kind of things that we can do. These are the kind of problems we can really solve. Apart from all the other stuff, I love My Taxi in Malaysia. You know the taxi app thing? Yeah, it's awesome. You know why it's awesome? Because it solves two problems. One, it solves a booking problem, you know, how inefficient these stupid taxi booking things are. Number two, it solves the problem of safety. And once you've registered every single taxi with an app like this, you've got GPS tracking on your phone, it makes it so much harder to rape your passenger. Anyways. ready to support entrepreneurs? Well, actually, there's a few good things about Malaysia. One of them is brain drain. Is that, sorry, I'll put it in context for you in a short while. The fact that there is brain drain happening, when we go back to Malaysia, the Malaysian community is incredibly supportive of you. As, in general, for me, at least my experience in the startup community, is that people look at me and go, wow, you could really do stuff overseas, you could really stay overseas, but you chose to come back. And for that reason, I felt very supported in the startup ecosystem with the friends that I met. And that's awesome. I think that's one of the most challenging things with startup is finding good support, because it's really hard work. But with good support like that, it gives you a much bigger chance to actually push through. And one other thing is that a lot of startups today are happening in the digital arena. And we all know that actually at this stage Malaysia doesn't really know how to regulate digital very well yet. So it is it's a very highly unregulated area, which means there's a lot more potential to disrupt existing inefficiencies in the systems that we currently have. So those are the two good things, okay? But there are two major issues that I see and have seen in my time in Malaysia. One is the ecosystem challenge. The time it takes to set up a company and the kind of hassle you have to go through in Malaysia is ridiculous. Here in Australia, 15 minutes, bang, I've got a company set up. And in Malaysia, it's like freaking one whole day at SSM, and then someone to get my name wrong. I wanted to name our company Malaysia Internet Socket, right? And they call it Internet Jacket Solution. Then the other thing is that, when I think the MPBJ came to my office trying to kacau me, and then they were like, hey, your name Internet Jacket Solution, like Cyber Cafe, Cyber Cafe license. I'm like, it's not Cyber Cafe. Anyways. I got a 300 ringgit fine because I didn't want to do whatever they wanted me to do. Anyways, another thing is the government funding, right? So the problem with the structure of a lot of government funding is given back to you as a reimbursement of your expenses. And we all know that as an entrepreneur, as a startup, that's a serious way to give us money. I mean, we spend then only get back the money. So what we have is cultivated a culture of granterpreneurs. Basically, people who just get grants and then spend money, go travel Bali, all this, and claim back as reimbursements. And I think startups should not have this kind of approach, because I think startups need to be able to be measured on an ROI basis. Look, if I'm spending this money, I'm going to generate good return. Give me more of that money, allow me to spend more of that money here, rather than why do you have to segregate all my spending in all these different areas. So I thought that's kind of silly. And the second major problem is a cultural mindset challenge. The harsh word is cronyism, but I think the word I chose to use is tribalism. I guess if you think about a tribe, right, you have a tribal leader, and whereas you contrast that with the idea of a company which has a board of directors, a system of rules that govern that system. And the problem in Malaysia is a lot of tribal leaders around. And governing, not governing, they are kind of like just standing over the land and saying, you want to cross into my land, you need to pay fee. Okay? So this is a problem. But I feel that is something that, to a certain degree, I don't know how to tackle yet, because I'm not that level. I just can observe. But the other major mindset problem is this, Singapore got kiasu, right? We also got something, I call it in Malaysian got Kung Fu Masters. What do you mean by Kung Fu Masters? You know how Kung Fu Masters operate their dojo? They have like all these disciples, right? And then they always teach them up to a certain level. Then they got this one secret skill until they die there only they did that. You know what I'm saying? Kung Fu Masters? Yeah, so in Malaysia actually a lot of this mentality exists. My own mom actually told me, hey, you don't teach your staff everything, otherwise they can run away and start their own business. I'm like, Mom, but if I don't teach them everything, I know how am I going to go do other things, let them do what they do. It's just ridiculous. I mean, the insecurity that we have. And this is the kind of culture that has been permeated from baby boomers to Gen X all the way down. And I think for us to progress as a nation, we need to not have that kind of mindset. This kind of insecurity that if I teach someone everything I know, they can go start competitors. Business so lousy, man. This is the kind of approach that we need to tackle. Mindset problems. Okay, so the other question that I've been asked to engage is, are economic perks sufficient to facilitate and attract startups? What do you think you guys will answer? Here one soft no. Hey, answer louder a bit lah. Okay, good. It's like this saying, I think this is coined by me. The entrepreneurs are plenty, but the teachers are few. And I feel that the biggest challenge with with cultivating entrepreneurship in Malaysia is community. Is that we don't actually, we think about talented, smart people, and then we go, oh yeah, we should use money and economic perks to push them back. Are you kidding me? A smart person can go anywhere and make a lot more money than in Australia. You make more money in Starbucks here than being like a senior manager anywhere in Malaysia. It's true. You're $40,000 here. How long will it take for you to get that kind of money? Money is not an issue. It's far from it. What we need is actually, Gen Y, like I said before, I laid the foundation for Gen Y. I said, Gen Y, we're interested in people believing in us. We're interested in people caring about our personal growth. We're interested in people drawing us into vision that is about real change, about real meaning, meaningful work. That's what Gen Y is concerned about. And that's the kind of community that we need to build in Malaysia if we are really to attract real startups, real entrepreneurs back to Malaysia. When people talk about startups, they don't talk about country, they talk about the community, Silicon Valley, Melbourne or Sydney, and communities are made up of VCs, angel investors, mentors, they're made up of entrepreneurs, incubators, accelerators. We don't have that ecosystem ready yet, and we need to continue to work on about it. And the community is all about, here are my shoulders, climb on it. I lend you my shoulders to get to where you want to go. It's not about everyone for their own selves. Community is about being able to develop one another, not being insecure about about the lack of success. It's not about a scarcity mindset. It's about generosity and abundance kind of approach. And really, fundamentally, community is about believing in each other. Like I said, it's about being able. Because startups are very hard, very, 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 very hard. And if we don't have each other, you're not going to succeed. And every time I read the media, I see some Malaysian startup being interviewed and say, oh, so what's the secret? Oh, the secret. Tell you. But tell you my competitor, no. What's your revenue? Oh, cannot tell you. Oh my god. So what's your most useful marketing? I cannot tell you. I'm like, serious? It's just a Google search away. It really is. And we need to discard that. But how can we do that? I actually have my doubts about corporate. I must say this, my disclaimer is that I've not worked in corporate. But from my friends and everything I've heard, the challenges of the corporates are good for one thing, startups are good for one thing, but the challenges of corporate is that you cannot change culture that much. You really cannot. Because corporate is like a massive family gathering. You have your grandpa, your father, I'm not calling anyone grandpa, sorry. You have your babies, And really to change the family culture is quite hard. But what I think we need a lot of the times in Malaysia is a new way of thinking and completely new culture. How are you going to change all the above mentioned problems that I mentioned? How are you going to solve those problems without actually changing the entire culture? You cannot slowly change. If you don't have slowly, please, how many years left before we die? If we can, and my dream is this. My dream is to go back to Malaysia, do my thing, support entrepreneurs, support other businesses, support existing businesses, but to carve out space in Malaysia where people can learn to believe for one another. People can learn to build businesses and grow environments that are not necessarily based on what we've been taught, but what we see is needed for moving forwards. Innovation has no respect for inefficiency; it disrupts it. I coined up that term too. And I honestly believe entrepreneurship is one of the few channels that we've got as Malaysians to really make a difference. We need to develop a better ecosystem, do a lot of community development, put ourselves out there, maybe fail, maybe succeed, who knows, doesn't matter. And I hope to be a part of doing all of that when I go back to Malaysia. So thank you for hearing me out and my no PowerPoint talk, but looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say.